This is Alyssa O'Keefe, and this functional area analysis is on institutional research, presented for strategic enrollment management. Before institutional research was formalized into a department or office in higher education, it began as a series of self-studies. Campuses began to research why they were in particular circumstances or how factors affected their institutions. External groups began to notice cross-institutional factors and similarities and began to survey and research across multiple institutions. Later, research committees and research-oriented offices began to pop up at institutions. This was particularly advocated for by the American Council on Education. To give perspective on this time frame, prior to 1955, only 10 institutions across the United States had dedicated offices to institutional research, and by 1964, that number had grown to 114 established offices at different institutions. During this time frame, institutes began and practitioners began meeting formally to discuss trends and challenges across campuses. In 1966, the Association of Institutional Research was formed, the governing association. Today, after 50 years, the association strives to be a leader in the ethical use of data for better decisions. Its mission is to empower higher education professionals to utilize data, analytics, information, and evidence to make decisions and take actions that benefit students and institutions and improve higher education. When we think about what institutional research is and what it really means, we find a few early definitions that are still some of the most widely accepted definitions about the field. In 1978, it was first defined as the organizational intelligence. In 1990, that was further expanded upon to be defined as decision support and providing support for institutional planning, policy formation, and institutional decision making. In 1993, Pat Terrazzini elaborated on the organizational intelligence definition, and he defined it as 3 different tiers. Tier 1, technical and analytical, looked at the basic profile of the institution, so admissions, enrollment, degrees awarded, faculty workload, and finances, along with the technical aspects of statistics and spreadsheets using research skills and technology. Tier 2 looked at issues that particular institutions were facing, such as student and faculty diversity, resource allocation, program evaluations and improvement, and enrollment goal setting. Tier 3 in contextual intelligence is really understanding the context of the institution and its history and culture and evolution in order to understand financial, social, and demographic implications. In reviewing institutional research's role in enrollment management is generally supported by institutional research. As we're learning, enrollment management principles are data-driven and do depend on this research. However, many institutional research offices are small and underfunded. Enrollment managers do rely on their IR offices for support, but may also need to seek some action research outside of these offices. According to our text, the most successful strategic enrollment management practices have resources dedicated directly to research. When tying in the association's view, they view the field as providing information to make data-informed decisions, and their purpose is educating stakeholders, which we will come back to later. When looking at the duties and role of institutional researchers, the association defines the following functions. Identification of the information needs of the institution. This includes reviewing data, research and policy studies, including institutional, state, national, and international conversations in higher education, and defining and refining research questions. Collection, analysis, and reporting of information. This includes information for decision support and answering questions on student access and student success and institutional operations. Planning and evaluation of operations of the institution, budgets, strategic planning, and program reviews specifically as used for accreditation purposes. Serve as stewards of data and information on institution-wide data strategies, looking at compliance issues around privacy and security and ethics. Resource for all institutional data and quality assurance. This includes educating information producers and users and consumers, and even training and coaching around data that is collected and needing to be used around the institution. And educating key stakeholders, all internal and external users of this information. The Handbook of Institutional Research really looks at the golden triangle. This includes institutional reporting and policy analysis, strategic planning, enrollment and financial management, and outcomes assessment of program review and accreditation. The duties and makeup of IR offices look different by institution, and they also have different reporting structures which impacts their role. These figures are from a national survey from 2009. Responses came from over 1,100 IR offices, employing over 3,000 staff members, with campuses averaging a few full-time staff in their IR offices. Figure 2.3 shows their reporting level, with a high number reporting to president or academic and research divisions, and a substantial amount reporting through business and finance and planning and institutional effectiveness. As you see, only a small number report through student services or development and IT divisions. With that information in mind, some large four-year institutions have moved IR under enrollment management. Regardless of where it is housed on campus, though, our text notes that the relationship between IR and enrollment management is critical to the institution's success. The registrar is another office under enrollment management that heavily supports IR functions. At some smaller institutions, registrars actually serve as the institutional researcher, housing databases, statistics, and enrollment numbers and projections. As our text notes as well, some institutions have enrollment management research departments in addition to institutional research offices. Enrollment management may fall under the Office of IR, or it could be housed in its own enrollment management division. But some of the data that's critical for the research to occur is admissions, financial aid, and student personnel information. Enrollment managers must rely on IR offices to guide efforts to increase retention rates. Collaborations between academic affairs and student affairs on these efforts will make them most effective. Our text also focuses on learning the pathways of institutions and student success. As we've been discussing, institutions assume that students transfer because it's a bad fit, but clearinghouse data shows that more are actually leaving and transferring to go to more demanding institutions. We should use IR to understand transfers to and from our institutions and define what student persistence really means. Enrollment managers also need to be working with IR to formulate learning outcomes and understand student enrollment decisions. Finally, I'll leave you with an aspirational vision published by the Association of Institutional Research for our campuses to be most effective. They recommend that Chief Institutional Research Officer coordinates all research efforts across campus, engages all stakeholders as decision makers, including students, faculty, and staff, to understand time management, extracurricular and activity choices, and life decisions that impact success and persistence, and information to support policies and decisions within their scope, and designing student learning outcomes as mentioned previously, and then intentionally grounding in a student-focused perspective.